welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Elana Katz, Director of Family and Divorce Mediation.
Exactly.
At the Ackerman Institute in New York City. Hi, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, family and divorce mediation, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. In learning about you, we read about you in the New York Times, I think, one of the newspapers. In learning about you, I was very attracted to what was called your specialty, collaborative divorce counseling, coaching?
Coaching, yes.
Divorce coaching. First off, I have to ask you to help me with that, help us, because collaborative in divorce already sounds a little unique.
It's kind of like an oxymoron almost, right? How do you put that together?
I think that people are getting divorced, that's what they want to do is uncollaborate.
Right.
And divorce coaching, it seems like people are so angry and emotional. How can they be coached? So I'm going to leave it to you to tell us what collaborative divorce coaching in a word consists of.
Okay, so first of all, collaborative divorce is a process where people make a commitment that they are not going to go to court and they're not going to threaten to go to court as a way to solve the matters between them. So it's an admirable goal. They're saying we're not going to burn through our resources.
And that's, but that's why you're getting your money's worth, because it's the way to do it.
Exactly. It's perfect for your topic.
Okay.
And what they found was that people wanted to do that. They wanted to stay out of court. They wanted to solve their problems in a less adversarial way. But the emotions would sometimes take over. And that's where somebody like me came in as a divorce coach, because I'm there to help people deal with the emotional fallout, deal with what's gotten them into that situation to begin with, and help them and help the professionals assisting them, the attorneys and the financial people, keep the process on track so that the emotions don't hijack it.
So let me go back. By the time folks get to you, it's a done deal. They're going to get divorced.
99.9% of the time.
Your job is not to save the marriage.
Right. Every once in a while, there'll be two people in a first session that you kind of look at them and they're being particularly kind, respectful, and you kind of say to them, and sometimes I'll say, do you mind if I put this professional hat to the side for a minute? And I ask their permission because I think that they have a right to say yes or no.
Sure.
And I'll say, I'll just notice how well you're getting along, how you seem to take each other's needs to heart. Are you sure that the marriage needs to end and it's not something about the marriage that needs to end? Once in a great while, there'll be a couple that will want to rethink it at that point, in which case I help them think about what a therapy process might look like. But almost all the time, by the time they've made that decision, sought out professional help to help them get divorced, that's where they're headed.
Okay, so also this must also be, Elana, much less traumatic for the children, for the kids, if somehow you get beyond all the acrimony.
Well, that was one of the main reasons that I got into it and that the Ackerman Institute got into mediation and these non-adversarial approaches, because we were sitting there dealing with families post-divorce for so many years, and oftentimes the divorce process itself was at least as stressful, if not more stressful, than the fact that the family was reconfiguring.
Yeah. But folks who come to you, folks come to you willingly.
Yes, it's a voluntary process.
Right. So already you have people that are a little more reasonable with each other and a little bit more patient. I mean, if it's people that have been fighting tooth and nail, they're not likely to wind up in your office.
Well, yes and no. Sometimes the one thing they can agree on is that they do want to contain the expense of it. They don't want to burn through everything they have.
Well, that's a good point.
And
especially in these times.
Yes, and sometimes people come in after having spent quite a fortune in the adversarial process and they see that it's not working, and that's very sad.
Yes, it is sad. I just like the whole divorces are sad.
Yes.
So if someone comes to you, and tell me how you start. I also want you to spend a little bit of time talking about what therapy is like in a situation. You make a point someplace in my talking points saying something about therapy is not surgery.
Yes.
And I took that to mean that you just can't cut it out. You have to somehow involve yourself a different way.
All these processes
Can
that
you
I'm involved
explain
in,
that?
whether it's therapy or mediation or collaborative divorce coaching, this isn't something that I perform on someone. This is something that I help engage their resilience, their resources, and help them bring their self at best to the table.
If people can't get along in a marriage, how, do they suddenly turn a hat and become amiable to each other in a divorce?
Well, that is one of the most disconnect. That's one of the most bittersweet aspects of it, which is that sometimes in the hands of competent professionals, people can find that they can go through a guided process more successfully than they were able to do their marriage. And there is something very bittersweet about that, because if we could understand each other like this, if we could make space for each other's perspectives and needs now, isn't it particularly sad that we couldn't do it then? And then sometimes they're able to do it because they know they're going apart.
Right.
You know, if you have two people whose needs are very different, you know, somebody who's decided that they absolutely want to have children and they're married to somebody who absolutely doesn't want to have children. Let's, you know, take one very graphic example. Right. Those two people might be very kind to each other in their parting of ways as they realize that they each need something very different in this world.
Just give me a little example of how do you start after you introduce the process to them? I mean, how do you get people to start talking about the mediation? And is the goal of mediation to get rid of all the variables that might cause litigation? In
mediation, I serve as a kind of guide or coach to help them make the decisions that are ultimately going to go into a settlement agreement.
I see. Financial,
all the financial decisions they need to make. And I realize we're just shifting gears because we're talking about two processes, so I just want to flag that. There's mediation, which is the least high-tech, if you will. One mediator sits with the two clients. And then there's collaborative divorce, where each person has their own attorney at their elbow. And they have somebody like me to guide the emotional piece of it.
So you're speaking not only to the people, the husband and wife, or the soon-to-be ex-husband and wife, but you're also speaking to their lawyers.
I'm also supporting the team, right?
Yeah, you're supporting the lawyers.
But if I start in mediation with people, I explain that I'm here to support their decision-making. I'm not going to be the one who's going to make the decisions for them. I'm going to help organize all the different categories that they need to review, discuss, and about which they may need to make decisions. I'll help them gather the information they need so they can make informed decisions. And I will also, if there are children, that's a huge piece of it. Talk with them about who their children are, what kind of parenting schedule makes sense, how they'll make decisions for the children going forward, and how the children will be supported.
I want to ask you two things. I want to ask you about, we brought the children now. Do you ever include the children in either the coaching process or the mediation process? You say someplace about it's different today in contemporary families, that kids have a voice.
Children do have more of a voice these days than they used to, and in mediation, I do generally not bring the children in directly. In the collaborative divorce process, we will sometimes create a mechanism for the children to be interviewed with and without the parents, not for the children to make the decisions, but to really get a sense of where they're at, what they're worried about, what's of concern to them, and to bring their sensibilities in that way, while still leaving the parents as the deciders.
And then on the, going back then to another topic that you talked about, you said helping them with financial. So much of one spouse or the other is involved with wanting to get back at the person at the divorce, vindictiveness, and often, especially I'm saying women. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You could correct me. But often women who don't have any other ammunition in their hands want to use the money to sort of get even.
I heard one woman talk about spousal support as retroactive pay.
Retroactive pay, right.
Right.
Okay, so but that's my point.
Yes.
Are you able to get beyond that? It kind of seems fair to want retroactive pay. Maybe I'm on the side of the aggrieved woman. I don't know.
Well, first of all, it's interesting. Sometimes in this day and age, the woman is sometimes the higher earner.
Yeah.
So it's not always one way.
I know, right.
One of the things we can do in this process is to try to make space for those hurt feelings, try to make space for people to, express their regrets. I know one case that I worked on, the husband was expecting to have a large inheritance, and he'd always said, you know, we can spend freely, don't, you know, down the road there's going to be so much inherited wealth. And of course, when they get divorced, inheritance is not subject to equitable distribution. So she didn't. So there are times where there's a lot of hurt and a lot of distress about and finances is also a key to safety in a sense of, you know, well-being.
Right.
But there's a place to process that, and then also look at what can the law offer, what can an agreement offer. In this day and age, generally spousal support, when it happens, is considered usually a transitional period of time, a time for the lower earning spouse to...
Is that called alimony?
It's what used to be called alimony is usually called spousal support now.
Now it's called spousal support?
Right, and it's usually considered a period of transition where the lower earning person has a chance to catch up, re-enter the job market, maybe retrain, go back to school.
I mean, speaking about the cosmetic aspects of divorce, I mean, you know, you see older men that I get tired of their wives who are maybe their same age category and want to pick a mate that's maybe 20 years younger or something. I mean, it seems as though there ought to be some obligation on the part of that scenario to help the wife that did help him along for so many years get even. And that seems equitable, Elana.
Right. Whether it was the husband who was earning that money all along, you know, while the wife was maintaining the home, or vice versa. If you're dealing with a long-term marriage where one person has really helped hold down the fort, then yes, there will be not just spousal support, but a division of the assets that were acquired during the marriage.
And are you able, through your mediation or your coaching, to make the person who wants the divorce feel obligated to fulfill that mission?
Well, generally, what I can say is
make them feel guilty,
is that. The person who wants, rarely, every once in a great while, two people arrive at the decision to divorce at about the same time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
That happens, but not often. More often than not, one person has been worrying about it, thinking about it, considering it internally for sometimes a couple of years even, before the other person really recognizes how serious it is. And what I usually do is I remind that person who's now seeming like in a rush, how long did it take you to really come to this place? How long were you worried about this inside? The other person does need time to catch up. They can't make informed and thoughtful decisions at a point of peak emotional distress. So some of that is really reminding people, you know, about that and helping them coordinate a sense of timing. Because if you try to take somebody who's in their peak distress, they've just found out, they're not ready. You know, if you ask them to make a decision right then, they'll say, fine, give me everything. Yeah, and that's usually not going to work for the person who wants to get out, you know.
We only have about less than a minute left. So tell me, how long does this process usually take? And how do you know? Do the people discharge themselves, or you say, oh, you're ready to go?
Well, generally, we're finished when they've made all the decisions that need to go into a settlement agreement.
The different categories.
Yes, yes. And the process, it's hard to say. You're sort of saying, how long does it take two people to agree? But usually we're talking about a period of months versus years. You know, something that might take several years in an adversarial climate can usually be done in a number of months in a more managed process.
So to get to the end, they discharge themselves, you discharge them.
We say you've reached the decisions.
And then they go off to their lawyers and they can draw up a divorce decree.
And then they take these plain English, decisions.
And they go to a divorce decree and they cut down by who knows how many hours and how many dollars the cost. It must be dramatic.
I would say mediation can be done at 5 to 10% of the cost of litigation. If I had to pick a number.
Okay, well,
that is getting your money's worth.
I was going to say we're not sitting here advocating for a divorce, but we are saying that not only is your way a value in dollars, but it's also a value and much less heartache and angst for the family.
Exactly. People don't have a long recovery process. They're not battle weary from the process.
Exactly. And if they leave with a comfort level, they can go about making up their life for themselves quickly. Thanks, Elana. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
So nice to talk with you.
And it's Elana Katz, Director of Family and divorce mediation / coaching at Ackerman Institute. I'm Judith West. Thanks for watching.